Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the meeting, the East Lampeter Township Emergency Services Committee to order. If you could all rise and we will pledge allegiance to our flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, we'll acknowledge those who are present. Mike Thornton, our supervisor representative, is present on Zoom. Claire Graham, Susan Yoder,
Present.
Paul Fisher, Donnie Boyer, James Martin here, Dave Keene,
Here.
Jason Byler, Eric Bergstrom. He said he might try to get on Zoom. He apparently is not. Steve Gribble.
Here.
Dave Gribble is on Zoom. Melanie McHenry. Greg Sherman,
Here.
Mike Kramer, Chad Englert. Showing up that he said he would be on Zoom. And Jeff Hatfield. It's not yet present. Okay, we have in the audience Tara, Tim Horner, Brett from he's the deputy EMC. Sorry, I don't have you listed here. Sorry. Okay, and then on Zoom, we have Susie. Is that correct? Susie Sutton?
Yes, Susie
And-
Sutton.
Yes, and Zach Gibbons and Brooke Bowman. Is that correct? Are they still there? Okay. Very good. So at this time, minutes from previous meetings, I would look for a motion for approval, corrections or questions on the minutes from the previous meeting. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve those minutes?
Motion, accept, second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, very good. All right, then we'll move on to old business, which is replacement of fire apparatus. We'll start with Whitmer, refurb of your tanker.
Yeah, the tanker is gonna be going out of service this coming Monday and heading Glicks for the refurb. They have all the parts, so we're gonna get that started. So hopefully in 3 months, we'll have it back.
3 months. Good, very good. Hand in hand, your replacement of 411.
I'm sorry, excuse me, if I could. The Board of Supervisors, I just want to report on Whitmer's situation with the tanker. The Board of Supervisors at their meeting earlier this week approved of the 33% value retained by the township as recommended by the committee. So I just want to report back that that happened at the board meeting. Additionally, as part of that discussion, they asked the Emergency Services Committee to discuss and make a recommendation on when that piece of apparatus should show up on the replacement schedule based upon it being refurbished rather than new. So I know that had been a point of discussion during some of your meetings, but I don't think it was ever concluded as to where on the schedule, how far from now would it be back on the schedule for consideration to be replaced or whatever would be happening at that time. So.
One of the things that I intended to do after we went through this replacement discussion was bring that replacement schedule up. I think that we need as an ESC to address the current replacement schedule, update it so that it becomes more current because of this Whitmer issue, and if there are any other issues that any of the other fire companies have with that schedule that they would like to see updates and changes, I think we should probably address that and get that updated. Okay, so we'll move on hand in hand, please.
Yeah, just a little bit of an update. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to report other than that our committee is continuing to meet. They are pretty aggressively trying to get this thing nailed down. You know, they've been looking at different features. They were up at Expo, I think, and like you said, they're continuing to meet. I don't expect to have a whole lot for this committee, though, probably before the end of the year, beginning of next year, so, in terms of details, so.
Okay, very good. Lafayette, ladder.
Lafayette ladder truck, currently going through the beginning of the meetings here. I think we've had 3 so far. And to date, they've been vetting out what it would look like to refurb the unit. But it looks like that may be cost prohibitive against the purchase of a new one.
Okay.
Just, I want to back up to Whitmer. Well, what did you say you would like to do there again?
The schedule, the board's requested that we take a look at the replacement schedule. And I've suggested that we might, as an ESC, take a look at the entire schedule and see if there are any modifications or changes that we would like to make in addition to the Whitmer change.
Okay, is that under new business at this meeting or?
Well, I think we probably can move that to new business at some point, yeah. Okay. Are there any other apparatus reports? Yeah. Okay. Any updates on human resources? How are we doing with each of the fire chiefs? Gain more volunteers, and how are your programs going?
For Lafayette, we're out in the community actually this evening making contacts. Since our last meeting, we probably had an additional 10 events occur, and there are more on the schedule. As far as applications coming in, I think we picked up 3 untrained members that are potentials. We're vetting them out now.
Okay. Whitmer?
So for Whitmer, I mean, our peer group's been out, for the past month. We've got 196 3/4 hours in trying to reach out to people. We got a meet and greet this Friday. As of this point, we don't have any applications in yet. We have a potential, maybe one being put in. That's it. I mean, we're doing all this legwork like what you're asking and stuff, but people that we're having, all we're doing is just burning them out faster. But we're trying.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, we actually, I think, voted in two new members at our last meeting. That was after, I think, 6 months after they had put the applications in and they had passed the requirements that we had. But other than that, we continue to work again, our human resources program. A lot of it is not, it's more of a long-term, I mean, short-term, it's, it fluctuates from month to month or whatever, but all in all, I think it's continuing to move in a good direction. Continuing to work with our drivers. We also had a couple of large fundraisers this past month, which we always get a lot of interaction with people there. And again, it's hard to measure, on a given month, but things are going, we're very satisfied with the way things are going. So,
Steve, 4-8.
As already reported, I believe at our last meeting, we had 6 new. We had one voted in last Monday night at fire meeting, who is a daytime driver, so that helps. So our fund drive letter is going out probably the beginning of November. We do it at the end of the year. And that will have something in there again about recruitment. So we're working on it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other discussions on HR at this point?
Jim, if I could just add a point on, these efforts that we have, we're certainly, I know you're going to talk about communications coming up. The internship program, I think we're still moving forward there. I know there was a question of insurance that came up. The school is fully insured for all the stakeholders that interact in the school, obviously starting with the students. We do have insurance certification letters that can be obtained. We have some information on that we'll share with all the fire companies so that they know. But just, I know that issue had been raised about sufficient insurance for potential interns, student interns that would come on to fire companies and, receive whatever appropriate experiences and training that might come their way.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I had intended to bring the internship up under the new business. Thank you. We'll continue that discussion then and
Okay.
under new business. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay. The last meeting, we discussed having a communications effort to integrate our fire company concerns and issues into the East Lampeter Township newsletter. And as a result of that, we have formed a public information or public relations subcommittee. And I would like to formalize that subcommittee this evening so that they can continue their work. We'll talk a little bit about what they did then also. We'll let Paul lead that discussion. The subcommittee consists of, from Bird in Hand, Amy Wissing, Amy Wissing, Paul Fisher. Lafayette is Violet DiStefano. Ronks is Andy Gribble and Steve Gribble. And Whitmer is Desiree Kramer and Chris Miller. Chris Miller was selected as the chair for that committee, and Paul will be interacting with that committee on behalf of the ESC. We gave them a list of things that we asked them to do. But before we go into that discussion, I would like to request an approval from this committee to have this subcommittee formed formally to support the public information effort.
I'll make the motion that we can formalize this committee and move forward with it.
Okay, we have
I'll second that.
thank you. Thank you very much. For those of us that attended the first meeting, I think we were really, really pleased with the positive effort that these people have initiated. But Paul, I'll let you go ahead and as the ESC
Yeah,
uh,
thanks, Jim.
point person.
We did have two meetings so far. First one was more just kind of trying to figure out where we're going, who's on the committee. And we elected a chairperson, which I think, as you heard, is Chris Miller from Whitmer. And then Violet DiStefano from Lafayette agreed to serve as secretary, so she's keeping the minutes for us. And then we set up a little more structure in terms of how the workflow will be and all that. Started kicking around some ideas, and then we met again a couple weeks after that, a few weeks ago, and tried to kind of pull together this first flyer, which I emailed out. Unfortunately, we just finished it. I think it was yesterday. I got the final draft of it, and I do have some paper copies I printed out in case you didn't see them. I'm happy to pass them out if anybody didn't get a copy or didn't get a chance to see it. But basically, this is kind of the first page that we came up with. So I'm happy to talk about, get any feedback people have. And by the way, that's the black and white grayscale. My own printer was having a little issue with the red. So hopefully that's good enough for you this evening. It will be color when it goes to print. So we kicked around some different ideas. And it's kind of hard to know where to start, where do we go with this? The intent, I think, of this committee with the township newsletter was to get, to basically explain more to the citizens, the residents of the township, who we are as volunteers, and eventually build towards recruiting people, hopefully enhancing our fund drives, financial support, and that type of thing. So we kind of started with the first one, with just kind of trying to lay out, give people an idea of the fact that there are 4 township companies, where they're, depending on where they're at in the township, which fire company would be theirs. And then there's just some contact information for each company. And then just a handful of small kind of bullet point type of things, informational things. So moving forward, we do have a list of 4 or 5 ideas. What we'd like to do is maybe work on, the next, whatever, 2 or 3, and get them pounded out well in advance here so that we can get them to the township. And there we're hoping to address, like, I think the next one on the agenda was, we talked about being volunteers and explain more what is volunteer, what does that mean? So when the average person moves into the township or is living here and they don't, when we say we're a volunteer fire company or we're protected by volunteer fire companies, what does that mean? Go into a little more detail of where our funding comes from, where our people come from, those kinds of things. Another thing we wanted to talk about is what each company kind of specializes in, maybe talk a little bit about the types of apparatus and the skills that each company bring and how we work together in mutual aid. So there's 3 or 4 other things already kind of on the list. And obviously, again, as we go forward, we're going to start making more specific appeals to try to get more people. Another one that we were hoping to maybe do a full page on here within the first, 3 or 4 issues here is, why should I consider volunteering, and point out to people, not just there's a lot of kind of negative thoughts, I guess, people have when they see about volunteering because of the time and all that, but we want to point out all the positives of volunteering, what you would benefit from by volunteering, by becoming part of a group like this, and the skills you'll pick up and the people you'll meet, and all the positive things, the camaraderie that you get from it, and just the sense of accomplishment, and so those kinds of things. So that's kind of what we're looking at, I guess, is trying to find, again, things that we're trying to look at it from a more perspective of the average person reading it. How do we appeal to them and not just dump all this, again, kind of the negative part, I'll say, which is just how hard it is to do this and all those kind. Nobody really wants to hear that, but they want to hear, we think what they want to hear is, why should I care about this? And so that's kind of what our goal is, to kind of help inform them of that. So anyway, I'll stop here in a second. And like I said, we had no short notice, but hopefully you got a chance to look over it a little bit and give us a little bit of feedback on it. I do want to say, I'd give a thank you to all 4 companies for providing us with the people they provided. I was very pleased, like Jim said, the quality of the people that we got and how engaged they seem to be. And I think the skills they brought, I feel like was a good mixture of people across the board. I want to thank Chris, who's not here this evening. I was going to ask him to kind of give this report, but he couldn't make it. But I wanted to thank him for stepping up and agreeing to be a chairperson of it. And yeah, it's been really good. So hopefully we can continue to move forward with that. A couple other things that are already kind of on the table here. Mike Thornton had made some, I think Jim and Jim had made some contacts at CV about, I know there's a thing going on with the Fireman's Club and some of that, which I won't get into. It's not really our, our business here, but as part of that, I think they had actually offered to also do some, give us some PR. I think they have some publications that go out, maybe the Buckskin News or something. I forget what exactly they're called. I think they have, I understand they have a couple different, like an email things.
We got the Buckskin News, and then they also have like the little radio broadcast.
Okay. So they seem to be very open to helping us if we're coming up with material for this anyway. Maybe they can share either identical information, or we can redo it a little bit and have it go out to the CV. The people, everybody gets that CV letter. So we're kind of waiting on that a little bit. We want to get this done first. This was what we were tasked to do, and then eventually here, hopefully in the next couple of meetings, we'll start to address some more of that as well. And we figure if we're doing the work anyway, we might as well get it out there to as many people as might be interested as possible. So,
Question for you, Paul.
Yes.
You were describing, and I just wanted to clarify, when you were describing some of the tasks that the fire department, you could also break it down to the administrative side of the different positions that can also be filled. I know a lot of them, when you ask about volunteering with the fire department, first thing you hear is, I can't do that strenuous work. They
Absolutely.
don't realize what else there is
Yeah.
available.
I think that'll probably, again, that alone, I think you could do almost a feature one page on, what, and who are these volunteers and what kind of positions are open and what are they all doing? And like you said, anything from, the janitor to the fire chief to the accountant to the,
Yeah, 'cause
It's
I
a
mean,
broad range
if we can get it out there so people understand that, if we get people to take care of the administrative side where it's once a month, for meetings or depending on what position you are, then that's going to alleviate some of our guys that are doing the 2-3 role deals to where we can just focus this side.
That's a good point. And I would say, absolutely give me the feedback, but feel free to provide that back through your representative as well and let them know. Like, again, we've had 2 very good cordial meetings and I think very open flow of ideas. And I think we're all on the same page so far. It's early, but hopefully we can maintain that. So Steve or Dave, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when I opened this up today in email, I think it's a fantastic kickoff. It's more than what I expected to see. I think it looks great. I do have one question now. If a member of this committee has content that they would like to be considered for sharing, who would we give that to? You said our representative.
Yeah, I mean, through your representative might be the easiest thing to do. We kind of have it set up right now that it'd probably be best to go through your representative and then maybe the chairperson. And then within the subcommittee, we actually have Steve Gribble's, I think, granddaughter, Andy, is the one that's doing a lot of the writing for us. Amy Wissing is doing a lot of the layout. So, but the best thing would be to channel it through either your representative or directly to Chris, probably. And
Okay,
then
thank you.
We're starting some Google, which we're not quite there yet, but we're going to start some Google sheets, some online things where we're going to start compiling all these ideas. And then I know the first one is a little bit busy. There's a lot of different things going on. We don't go into a lot of depth with it, but we are starting to compile ideas, and then we're going to try to, I said, we were a little crunched on this first one for time to get it into, a printable, something that we can actually use. But as time goes on, we will refine those ideas. And I don't see any reason at some point that we can't even make them talk to the committee about it, maybe even just in the rough kind of idea stage where people on this committee can see the ideas and maybe add to those ideas. And I think there's, I think we're on the right track, hopefully. But
I think we are too, but you have a good point, Dave. Control of what goes in here is certainly with this committee. But we're funneling everything through Paul. So certainly any ideas, please.
I would say send them to
We're,
Chris and copy me
yeah,
on it or whatever. And we'll make sure. it's
Absolutely.
right.
Great kickoff.
Thank you.
Hutch, I think you had a comment.
I had a couple of comments or questions about the piece when I saw it this afternoon. As far as the colors are concerned on the map that's here, Burdenham and Lafayette are close. I don't know if you want to do something that would be a little more contrasting.
Okay. We had that specific discussion
Okay.
and I'll have to go back to our layout. There was a reason for that. I'll have to clarify with her. Actually, I think the 2 were beside each other and they clashed even more, but I can pursue that further.
And I like the idea of, identifying this page, this is suggesting your volunteer voices as sort of the identification for what this is going to be as a repeating
Right.
theme.
Right.
I guess I'd look for that to be a little bit bigger on the header to
We can do
sort of
that.
stand out a little bit more. Again, these are just suggestions. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to take over
Yeah, no, that's
for the
fine.
committee.
We're looking for feedback.
Under the how do we help section, everybody here understands what you mean by hydrant and no hydrant. I'm not sure the average person reading this is going to understand what you're trying to convey there.
Okay. Okay.
And likewise, on the other, what events do we respond to? EMS might not be an acronym that everybody would pick up on
Mhm.
right away. And I guess the other thing in general, I think this is what the committee discussed before, that, this would be a page in the newsletter.
Mhm.
Something to think about in the future. It could be an insert rather than a page. So I don't know if it's something that you want residents to keep.
Okay.
They might be more likely to keep an insert
Yeah.
rather than the whole newsletter.
Mhm.
So just
Okay.
a thought, and
That's good.
whether if it is an insert, you'd have both sides to
Right.
work with in that regard as well.
Okay. I will say, Hutch, just to address a couple of the other things, I know it was a little bit of a struggle for us, this first one to, and some we discussed a good bit was about it getting so wordy that are people even going to bother to read it versus simple, fairly simple, straightforward little blurbs that, how it is with social media and everything, people don't like that. They're just looking, it's more of a billboard thing. You look at it, you get a couple of key things and then you're on. So I think there is definitely the possibility going forward of maybe, and I think that's where we'll probably take some of these things and break them out and get a lot more in depth with them at some point. But we went back and forth a couple of times with, there's not near enough detail there to then adding the detail and then being like, that's just like, that's too much. So, but I hear you. It's a good, we'll have to find the right balance there. So.
Okay. All right, then there was also some discussion about trying to integrate some of this into the website that the township has. That's going to be an ongoing discussion.
Yeah.
An interactive map was developed. There's some discussion that needs to be made about that interactive map before it gets finalized. And I'm sure in the next
I think,
meeting or so, you'll have some.
Chris had suggested that. I think he was, again, he's definitely more techie than what I am, but he had come up, I think, with a way to basically put something on the website where a resident, we could direct them there with a URL or something on the sheet, or maybe even a QR code where you just scan it in your phone. You'd be able to go to this site, type in your address, and it would tell you, because again, looking at this map, it's kind of hard to, it gives you a general sense of where you're at, but if you're right along the edge or somewhere, again, the map's just not big enough to give road names and all that. So here you could actually enter your address and it would tell you you're either in Burden, Runks, Whitmer, Lafayette's area. So we thought maybe that would be something we'd do here at some point. I think that was something maybe Chris was going to follow up with either Hutch or the staff here, whoever's in charge of the tech here at the township. Again, there's a lot of the things we talked about. It's like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's come back. The task was to put something in the newsletter. Let's start with something. Like anything's better than nothing right now. It's kind of how we looked at it, and hopefully this is going to, again, it'll be refined and we'll continue to get better at it. So the other thought I think was maybe at some point, maybe when we have 2, 3, 4 of these, if the township on wherever the fire company information is on the web page would maybe have like a link to a PDF of it or something if somebody was interested later on in going back and digging up. For now, again, I don't see that as being a big deal one way or the other, but might be something to archive on the township site as well. So, and these are all just thoughts that we're kind of kicking around right now. So,
Okay.
Paul, I would say, if I may, Jim, I think you did achieve what you wanted there in controlling the amount of content. I always say it's Goldilocks, make it just right, not too much, not too little. I think they always talk about enough white, make sure there's enough white because people will read it if it's not too much. So I do agree. The only comment I had was the same as Ralph on the mix of hydrant and non-hydrant might be another way to say that might,
Okay.
clear that up. But I think that is a tremendous effort and having the ability to be with you on that first meeting and listening to everybody. That is a committed group of people, so many skills. I'm glad that the people that had the skills really saw that they could contribute those in that way. And this is great. The only other thing I would say is I know Katie Meyer is ready, willing, and able at the school district. She's always searching for content. And don't forget, every Thursday, there is a communication going out. She can give us a standard feature, and she can also, that could be as simple as every one of our events are always listed there, but also features. So I think you have a couple stories that are just within this that can be expanded on and can be things that you talk about in more detail later. But tremendous job from that group. Well done.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll move on. Is there any other old business to come before the? Not, we'll move on to new business. We'll pull the fire companies here, please. So we'll start with Bergen.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. Like I said, we had a couple fundraisers on the administrative side. We had our chicken barbecue here a few weeks ago and it went well. I think we sold close to 3,000 half chickens, which was pretty close to a record again. And then a week ago, almost a week ago now, last Friday and Saturday, we had our half marathon 5K event. And that went very well. We had nice weather, which is always a huge part of making that work well. And so we're all done fundraising for this year, so which is nice. So, but no, it went really well. We actually had a record turnout on Friday evening for our 5K, and on Saturday for the half, we weren't quite at a new record, but pretty close, higher than the last couple of years. So, other than that, I don't think I have just a whole lot. Tim sitting out there, is there anything, Tim, you can think of off the top of your head that I'm sometimes coming to these meetings, I should be making better notes? Yeah, it's kind of nice to put that behind us. So yeah, we'll be doing another letter yet, but on the firefighting side, our chief isn't here, so I don't think there was really anything that stood out there. So
Okay. Steve Runks.
We were able to finish a couple projects we had started over the last year. For example, garage doors, we finally got the finished parts in, so we were able to finish that. One thing we did do, and I'm sure we all have done it or are working on it. Our grant is in for the state. We did use some of the rescue tools we purchased. We go by debt reduction, and then we also put the garage doors in, two separate things. So that was our main goal this year, to get that done and grants in. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Lafayette.
Okay, this Monday we had our training night. Tuesday this week, it was an event over at Millersville College. That's Violet attended that. DeStefano promoting the fire company. This evening they're over at I'm sorry, Wednesday evening there was a meeting at the Penn Health College where they were promoting the fire company. This evening we're at Emergency Services. Saturday, a few of us will be attending the rescue training out at Faulkner Oldsmobile. And Sunday coming up, we have fire safety training and observation of a fire drill at 9 and 11 at Mellingers Church. So we are out in the community trying to promote the fire company. As far as the state grant goes, we have ours submitted for debt reduction also. Goal is to try and get the engine paid off before we hit the time for the ladder truck to start. AFG grant, we have an AFG in for the federal grant for new supply hose. That's about $35,000 worth of 5-inch supply hose. Our hose is approaching 20 years of age, and this will be the third year that we have put in for that. Lately, the AFG grants have been leaning more toward health and safety initiatives. So if you can get an exhaust vent in your firehouse or you exercise equipment, a lot of grants are going for annual physicals for firefighters. Just a lot with health and safety. We do have a grant submitted to the county for the ARAPA funds, the American Recovery Act, and that's for 40 portable radios. I believe I was the first one to submit a grant for that, a request, and they wanted to wait and see what other requests would come in. If you go to the county website, it's listed there, Lafayette Fire Company, and you can actually view the grant, but there are more grants or requests that are coming in day to day. I'm still hopeful because they're working through that.
Whitmer?
Yeah, we got our Oxfords coming up here next month, October 15th. Like I stated previous, talking about the original company earlier, that, you know, fair committee's out doing their job that they're supposed to be doing. Got a wonderful group of people doing it. Like I said, this past month, they got 196.75 hours out trying to reach out and things. We still got this Friday coming up.
Okay, very good. I'll move to.
Yeah, just a few things I wanted to comment on. As always, you know, if anybody has any updates to their driver's lists or anything for the fuel card system that's needed, you know, please let us know. Appreciate the spill control reports that come in. You know, they're very helpful to our staff. So when those events happen, please get those reports in. Just a reminder to everybody, based upon the ESC's calendar, October 1st, everybody's supposed to be sending in their capital projects plan for next year, anything more than $7,500. So just want to remind everybody, October 1st is coming up. The other thing that the board did in response to, there was a discussion item here and then followed up with a meeting with all the fire chiefs. They have authorized the fire chiefs to use Paradise Fire for water rescue resource if needed. So that did happen. I have been in communication with representatives of Paradise to make arrangements to get their certificate of insurance indicating that the township's an additional insured, which was the only condition that the board set for doing that. So once I've got that, I'll let everybody know, and that'll be done.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on that. I don't know any better way of saying this, but the 4 fire chiefs had a meeting with township staff discussing Paradise and the use of Paradise. And what I left the meeting with and what was presented to the Board of Supervisors were 2 different things. And the other 4 fire chiefs, not all are here. But what I left that meeting with was that we were going to ask the supervisors to special call Paradise if needed, not just for water rescues. I believe Donnie Boyer had stated that if he needed to have a second rescue, he wanted to be able to call for a second rescue. If we had a major fire, if we needed to call for a tanker fill site, we would be able to call for their engine. That we would not be putting Paradise on our boxes as first due, but we wanted the ability to call them for as a special service, whether that be for water rescue, a fill site engine, or another rescue. That's what I left the meeting with understanding. Steve, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's the same impression I had too, but you know, I mean, it's a start. I mean, if we need to talk more, have other discussions, we can. And we're getting our foot there. It's just, I feel we have that opportunity. We have that closer. You know, I mean, our job here is to try to provide the best service that we can to our township residents. You know, whether it's company 3 miles away because of an issue that that township and that fire company has, that's between them. I don't feel we should be jeopardizing services that we can use close to, within a close resource. You know,
Mike, do you have any input from supervisor's standpoint on that discussion?
Well, no, the way it was presented was that it was specific to water rescue at this point. I do think that it was left open that could be, there could be other opportunities to open up Paradise Fire to assist us. But that was the specific request, water rescue.
Understand, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but it was a difference in opinion, I guess, in the way it was presented or the way that we took away our discussion.
Okay. Well, for right now, I guess my understanding is that the supervisors support the water rescue only. So if there's other discussions that need to happen, I guess they should happen beyond this.
since we're on this topic, you know, I'm gonna ask you a question here. I'm usually been pretty quiet, bite my tongue here a little bit, but I'm just gonna throw this out here. You know, my opinion, this is a discussion I feel we should be having here. You know, we had an incident in the township. Wasn't really discussed much in here. It goes to the supervisors. It's thrown back. Why isn't it discussed in the ESC? You know, so I mean, I'm still new, second year as the chief. Give me some clarification of where I'm supposed to be discussing some tactical issues that we're supposed to be dealing with for the township safety. Is it here, private meetings, or the supervisors? And if it's the supervisors, I don't want to be getting my butt reamed or grilled like Dave did the other night. You know, so can somebody give me clarification on that?
Well, I don't know how to answer that question, other than, you know, the mission of this committee is to foster the volunteers throughout the fire community and township.
I've been a member of this committee for 12 years, and I don't ever remember talking about incident mitigation or incident tactics at a fire command level at this meeting. Because I would ask who in here is qualified to actually talk about that or to make a decision on that. So the other night I was taken blindly, I would say, by some of the pointed questions that I was asked. And yes, I answered them to the best of my ability. But I got to say, at the end of the night, we agreed to disagree as to what this body actually represents. The supervisors felt, or at least one of them did, that this body should be in control of everything fire and emergency in the township. Whereas my opinion is that this event here, this body should be more about planning for fire and emergency, not mitigating it. So when we talk about planning, is that planning at the funding level and operational level? Or is that planning for everything here at this meeting? I mean, when you go to the township meeting, you have the supervisors meeting, you have a park and recreation meeting, you have I don't know, they have different subcommittees, okay? And each one of those has their own meeting that they bring back. Is that what this meeting here is for, the ESC? To talk about all fire and EMS related? If it is, maybe we should have EMS representation here also, or police representation.
Yeah,
I can answer that if you don't mind, Jim.
Yeah,
And
go
Dave,
ahead.
thanks for that. Steve, appreciate that. We did clarify some things after that meeting the other night. What is the role of the Emergency Service Committee? I'm new also, so want to follow what has been established previously. What is the mission of this committee? It's a very short paragraph that was approved for the mission of this committee, and it is to just advance and support the volunteer fire companies of this township. That's what we're to do. And I think we've been doing that really well. The idea that we would be in charge of emergency situations, things like that, that is not the role of this committee. And it won't be the role of the committee as far as the supervisors are concerned. So that was a point to clarify, Dave. It's understood. And so I feel the ability to say that with confidence after talking with some of us on that issue.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. All right, thank you. Right.
Yeah. Just chiming in again, sorry. Yeah, I'm not knocking this or saying anything that this committee has done. Yeah, because it has done wonderful things since it's got going. Yeah. It's just that I'm not, from what I'm hearing and what I've seen from the get-go up to this point. Sorry if I sound a little frustrated because I am. I'm confused, not sure how we're doing this or what we're supposed to be doing. But from what I understand prior, and it's been mentioned in a couple of other meetings, you know, the alternates, everybody was here together at the table. We worked together, we discussed ideas, we moved forward with it. Seems like we're dividing, don't have any real clarification on what we're supposed to be doing, and what our jobs are supposed to be.
Okay, well, I would say that, you know, since I've been chair, we've been trying to struggle with what the primary issues identified, okay, and established, right? And we're moving. We have gotten a subcommittee started here to try to get public relations started. And part of the discussion tonight, I want to discuss in this new business is the internship program that the fire company is sponsoring. So that's another program that this committee is going to support. Okay. And I think we need to that discussion next and move that, but we also need to talk about what we already have established as far as the replacement schedule. So those are the things that we need to continue to do as we add some of these other issues. I mean, we have 16 people, you're right, on this committee. And I have to say, unfortunately, not all 16 people express their opinions. You know, the most of the discussions are as a result of the chief's meetings, which is not bad, which is good because you guys are the ones that are right there on the front lines. And we need to understand and know that, but we need also to have some interaction between the community so that we can try to maintain this volunteerism. So I don't know what else to say to answer your question at this point, other than I don't feel that we've been dragging behind on anything that we've done in the past. As a matter of fact, we've moved forward now and finally got agreement on some things that we've talked about for years. Please don't be afraid to express your opinion. I mean, that's we certainly need
Well, I
your-
appreciate it. I
your-
mean.
Your points of
and-
view and your, and,
Yeah,
you know.
and I
to move
appreciate that
forward.
because I mean, everybody's
Yeah.
opinion is, you have a right to that opinion. Everybody
Yeah.
has the right to hear it, whether we agree or disagree. I'm just looking because, like I said, it's my second year here. Yeah, from what I've heard from the past chiefs up to this point, there's been a lot of great stuff that's been accomplished here in this room. You know, but it's like, it seems like now when there's some little issues that certain one of us feel like we should be addressing in here, we're told it's not to be addressed in. Other issues are discussed in supervisors. Why is it here? It should be in here. That's where I'm looking for clarification. What is to be discussed in here and what isn't? So I know, so I'm not making a donkey's, you know what, out of myself.
Okay, well, I have to go back to what the mission statement says, you know, and it's to maintain the volunteerism within, and so, you know, what does that mean? That's a pretty big umbrella. So,
So then just throwing out, you tell me if I'm right or wrong. So like issues of trying to move forward, but maybe having subcommittees for trainings, trying to get standardized training in the township, financing and other options. Would that fall under here?
well, you know, and that's a very good point of discussion. And as a matter of fact, I was going to bring that up this evening. So it's not like, you know, it's not like that isn't something that probably needs to be discussed here. Yeah. So, and we will discuss that. And if you want to move on to that, we will move on to that as a new point. All right. But I might as well address that now while you're asking the questions. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll hold that and we'll talk about the internship and I'll let you address your internship program. Mike has already indicated that we have some insurance answers. And I asked the question of the township, Hutch, and I completely forgot we had this list. Indicated that there are a whole list of things that our workman comp does cover. And it does cover fire safety instruction and inspection. So I guess for me, does that fire safety instruction and inspection cover the school intern program that you are working on? And I would like to suggest that we might want to ask to add specifically school fire safety training and internship to this list so that anyone participating in the program from any of the 4 fire companies is specifically covered under the workman comp. I mean, this whole list is emergency incidents, non-emergency incidents, and it goes all the way down, fire safety, instruction, inspection. Is it necessary for us to add that specifically so that we can call that out?
Let me kind of add to that before you answer, because I mean, I'm looking at the list that you sent me something, and there's a couple of different, and that's where it's up in the air, because it could, you know, fall under, you know, participation in fire company related celebrations or inclusions or trainings. Yeah, so there is a list, plus like you had mentioned that other one. Yeah, because that's what we were looking, this is some of the things we had discussed. Yeah, because there's the same thing with the workman's comp, because not trying to steal and kind of jump ahead into this program, but once it does start and we get to a certain point, then the workman's comp things come in, which the township chiefs to discuss, except for Steve, he wasn't there, but his representative, just throwing out how we're going to work this, because to have a workman's comp cover there have to be a member. So there was a couple different scenarios. But that was one of the other concerns. Like I said, I'm not gonna talk more. I don't want to kind of rail into the different subjects that we get to say.
Okay, well, is it necessary, Hutch, for us to add, or are we covered in your mind as far as the workman comp's concerned?
If it would make all the fire companies more comfortable that there be more specific language in that list, I don't see why you wouldn't modify the list to make everybody more comfortable and clear if that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
So I know one of the questions is just making sure that we have it, you know, that's covered for the workers' comp, the liability and all that stuff. And then, you know, making sure there's no little areas. So like my thing was is once we kind of, because we're still in the beginning steps, you know, to work through this and get the thing up and rolling. But, you know, there's the procedures and steps. And once we get to that step, that's where I'm gonna reach out with you, try to meet, make sure, see what you're looking at, see if we're covered, if there's something more we should be doing, make sure there's no little crack. Where I think it comes to workman's comp or insurance, you know, we have that little red tape and all that stuff. And this is something new, we've done the fire club before, but this stuff here.
My understanding when I left the meeting was the students would participate from CV school district. And let's say they come a few times. And then the internship would steer them towards the closest fire company that they live to and ask them to join that fire company. Once they join that fire company, then they would be covered under the workman's comp as a member of that fire company. But looking at the in-between time from when they travel from CV and let's say they attend the first 6 sessions of internship and they try and figure out, is this for me or isn't it for me? And of course, we're going to try and pull them in. But this might be a question that Mike Thornton might know. Is it just like a field trip at the school? Are they covered under their parents' insurance or are they covered by school insurance? Because it's basically, I would see it as an extracurricular activity. You know, whether it's a field trip or a sporting event or something that they're participating in, it's associated with the school.
Right.
So we're just looking for that bridge to make sure that they're covered with insurance in case they would get hurt. Once they join the fire company, I don't think it's an issue and we could easily add it to the workman's comp. But you know, if they're a member of the fire company, just as a junior is today, I don't think it should be an issue as long as the school says they're okay with covering them.
Yeah, I can comment to that. First of all, it's a program for credit. So it's the student is involved in a class. The class is an experiential learning experience, right? It's outside the classroom. We have all kinds of businesses and organizations that are not always for profits. Some of them are nonprofits. Well, all kinds of businesses that students have been involved with. And we do have school insurance that covers them in that activity. So the teacher, John Krulak, who's in charge of the internships, he's getting the specific certification letters so that you can have access to them to see how they're covered. But not only students, but the staff, volunteers, there is a complete umbrella of insurance for those people who are interacting at the school. Many of you have interacted at the school. You volunteer for certain things. Sometimes you're doing physical things. We have insurance to cover those incidents. So, but I want you to feel confident about it. So does John, obviously. So he'll make sure you have the information you need for that. But yes, the students are covered when they are out and about doing classroom work that's really outside of the school, just like they were in school.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that clarification, Mike. Okay. So if you could go ahead and define to us so that everyone understands what this internship program is that we're asking the ESC to support. Go ahead.
We've been talking about trying, you know, off the list there and some ideas that I've had for this past year. And one of them was trying to get back into schools, which we've also discussed with different things. So once again, our wonderful sport committee took the ball and ran with it. And same with Lafayette. Well, I kind of include her because she's also a member with us, but Susie also did it too. Got with Des and then kind of approached this idea, talked with Mike Thornton. And then that got the ball rolling to the point where we are now. It sounds like the school's excited. They want to do this. They want to work with us. So once that got done, Des and Susie talked with me, and then we pulled in the chiefs on the township chief meeting or training. We had a brief meeting, kind of laid out a little bit of the internship. You know, kind of like I said, it's still in the beginning stages. There's little steps we're gonna have to follow to make sure everything's kind of in place, but they're looking for like January, the next semester, to start this program. So kind of laid it out to see with the 4 companies in the township, because we don't want to be the one having to try to do it all. We want to work it together because it's a benefit for all of us. You know, my thing is, you know, if Bronx or Lafayette or Birmingham ends up getting some extra volunteers for it, and we don't, it's not a big deal to us. It's not about us. You know, then to me, that's a success for this program, because it's going to be in the high school, 11th and 12th grade. You know, it's not like how we did way back then with the fire club in middle school. We're going up to the next step, trying to get them before the students go out into the work club or start doing stuff, you know, and then opening their eyes to something that maybe they're not seeing. Where, you know, we may get 1 or 2, maybe 3. I'm not sure what our ratio is going to be. That, you know, hey, I like this, and then keep following with it. You know, it's a trial basis. But talked amongst the township chiefs, kind of laid out some things. And like I said, Dave mentioned about one of the ideas is we're going to direct them to wherever they live, to that township department to join there. And then we're going to be the central hub because we're the closest to school. So that's where, you know, some of these questions as far as the insurance, they come over here, you know, because there's already a curriculum already established. So it's not something that we have to come up with and do. We're just following this curriculum. We're just going to run with it. So the thing is like the insurance, you know, we're probably going to be the one here, you know, because they're going to be coming to our station. So that's where we want to make sure everything, all our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. You know, it's just going to be like if somebody went into the academy and started here, you're going to start with the basics, work your way up. You know, so hopefully by the time that they're through this and out of the school and they actually start running more with that company, they're going to be up to where they need to be. You know, but like I said, there was a couple different things, like as far as reroute them to each department, or we take them in and start it there and kind of use as I hate to say it, as like a weed process to see who's going to be interested and who's not. And then as they progress in, then when it gets to the point that now we're getting gear, we're starting to do some of these trainings, then we start directing to the other departments. So that's where some of the things are. You were in on the meeting. Is there anything you want to chime in with this?
Just that we're in conjunction with the CV school district, and CV school district is far reaching all the way to Brownstown, I believe. So, I mean, we might get 4 or 5 students that are interested in the West Earl Fire Company or in the Upper Laycock Fire Company. So just to make sure that we steer them right and get the insurance correctly. I don't think East St. Peter Township should hold all the insurance on these folks if they're going to join somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's why we're looking at the gap coverage, which Mike had already alluded to, and we're just making sure we have the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think this is a tremendous opportunity to
Yeah.
get, and so I'm wondering, for the benefit of the rest of the committee, I think this is something that we as a committee really need to get behind and support. And I'm wondering if maybe at the next meeting, you can share with us a short summary of the course that you're going to be offering. You think you
Well,
already have?
that's what we're working on, because the person that actually has designed this class, from what I'm understanding, you know, more from Susan, because you've heard about it.
Yeah, Susan, she's,
Let me know, but it was designed by Baltimore, you know, so that's where we want to look at the curriculum a little bit, because we know we're going to have to tweak a little bit from, you know, that area to kind of cover the areas that we cover.
maybe for the next meeting, we can ask her to come in and give us a short summary of the program so that we all have an understanding of the program.
Yeah, we
and
can do that because I mean, we can take that so it's easier instead of this out tonight, but just
Right.
briefly, what we're looking is possibly this first year is just the township company. See how this program goes and then reach out to like West Earl,
Okay.
Upper Lake, the ones that the CVA is going to for the additional resource. So it's not just all of us, you know, trying to spread it out. Because I think it's, from what I understand, it's 2 days a week. You know, the last 70 minutes of the block, you know, so this way on Monday, you got maybe Ron's couple guys doing their thing. Friday, flop it, spread it out. Then the ultimate goal is down the road when they get to that point that we've talked about, which is other things that we want to look at, make sure is when we go and do a live burn in Westchester, take them down there and let them see, you know, and possibly before anything's done, do a controlled thing, just like we would do down at the training center. Take them into the building, let them see the stuff, you know, so
Okay,
that's some of it. I mean, Don is out here. Of course, Steve wasn't there, so I mean, is there anything I'm missing on that?
Now it's still being formulated, and kudos to Susie and Mike's wife Desiree,
Right.
and Mike Thornton also.
I would add, I just add one point of clarity too. No matter what you're planning, I would make sure you're including John Krulak on it, because John's going to know the schedule of the students. Some of them will have more access than others. Some of them will be for 45 days, maybe some for 90, maybe some all year. Just keep that wide open. I'd also try and keep really the idea is that you're giving a student a chance at the real world. That's really what internships are all about. I'd be cautious about talking about, hey, we want you to join right away. And I obviously that would be a great offshoot of what you're doing. You're giving great exposure to kids in a world that they have no idea about. It can lead to all kinds of interest levels for them, but recognize that they're doing it for credit in school right now. Whether or not they'd be able to actually join, become junior members, anything like that, I'd just be real timely in doing that, really gauging their interest and things like that. But really, it's about exposure and into the real world, all the different features of what it takes to run a fire company, what it means to be a firefighter, all those things, and be patient with it, because you know we have other businesses that we've been running. I'm sorry, I'm putting my school hat on, but you know a lot of these folks would be part of the internship program and almost never get an employee out of that situation. So, but they know that the real benefit is getting kids to be exposed to something they don't need. Now, clearly, especially if they're going to be staying in our area, we'd love for them to be involved. And that is, you know, certainly a reason why we're doing this. But I just thank everybody for getting involved and taking it so seriously. That's a really good sign, but I'd say be patient too. Word will spread. Students have an experience like that. They're going to tell other students about it, especially when they're younger. They're getting into the age where they can do that and they can drive and all those kinds of things. So one step at a time. I think we got a great opportunity to work all the bugs this semester if they're not going to start until January. That's what I wanted to say, Jim.
okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see Susie's on here, so I don't know if there's anything maybe she wants to add.
Well,
Yes, if it's possible, I just wanted to let everyone know that the bonfire was our target date for, basically all the fire companies are due to be at the bonfire at CV. And so therefore a great opportunity to release that information, make it available, and then working with the school. We have another meeting coming up September 19th. So if anybody is interested, that's in the middle of the day, 1:30 p.m. on September 19th with the school. So it is open to anybody in the East San Pedro Township to get involved with. Desiree and I have kind of started it out, but we'd love to have a few more dedicated people to assist with planning.
okay. All right. Thank you, Susan. I really want to ask you, Susie, if you could present to us at the next meeting a short summary of this entire program so that we all have a thorough understanding of it, please. Coordinate that between now and the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Wife as well. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. So if there is no further discussion of this, then we will move on. Kind of mix things up here this evening because of some of the discussion, but we'll try to get back on track here. I haven't forgotten about you. I haven't forgotten about you. All right. So we'll get to you here. All right. I did want to address what we addressed it before on subcommittees. The Lafayette Fire Company Board of Directors on their 725 at the 725 meeting have requested that the ESC consider putting together a couple of subcommittees to address areas of finance, operation, and community HR. I've been thinking, I didn't respond to that yet. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I had a short discussion with Mike here this afternoon about it. But my feeling is that yes, subcommittees are absolutely the way to work things out and move ideas and thoughts into action. However, we just can't willy-nilly appoint committees. The four chiefs have done a pretty doggone good job of directing discussion for all the years that I've been here anyway on different matters. So my thought is that if we are going to appoint any subcommittees, we've already appointed one, and with some pretty good direction from this committee on what they wanted to see initially, and then some initial discussions. They did a pretty good job of putting together a very good job putting together their first effort. But we need to take that same model and we need to expand that model before we appoint any subcommittees, in my mind. The question is why, I guess, do we need a particular subcommittee? What is it for? And so that needs to be defined by this committee. I have a finance committee. We need to define what that finance committee's goals are, short-term, long-term, what the parameters that the committee has to work with. Okay. What's the end effect of that subcommittee? What's it going to do? Same with any other subcommittee. So we need to focus and enhance so that it enhances the goal of the four township fire companies. We need to define the makeup. Should the makeup be only ESC appointed members and alternates? Should it be members of the community who volunteer, mix of the two? We need to kind of define how we want or should have a subcommittee appear as far as makeup and personnel. Got to define the need. We have to prioritize and formalize the requirements for each before we even appoint or decide to form a subcommittee. I mean, the chiefs have really done a pretty good job as far as bringing discussions forward. So Maybe we need a subcommittee of just the chiefs with some support. I don't know. So not against subcommittees. It's just that we need to formalize them. We just don't want them willy-nilly, I don't think. Assign a subcommittee without knowing what the direction will be.
Jim, can I throw something in
You
here?
may.
I mean, right now, the committee we have that put this information together for the township newsletter, a lot of them aren't in fire company. Okay, so we just put a committee together that you brought that we accepted into helping us. If there's people in this township that want to help us and can shed some light I guess I'm not one for, we need this, we need this, we need this. We need ideas. And we have to be able to share those ideas. And this newsletter, I'm hoping, we are hoping, I believe, Paul, that we get some good feedback from whoever that can help these 4 fire companies provide a good service. I'm not saying a better service, but a good service. We have alternates that have a lot of knowledge that are sitting out here that we don't use. I have no problem having a subcommittee of, whether you want one for training or you want one for something, when I say training, just training in general, what's going on. I know Jason Baller sent something out to us about bulk purchasing. We tried that before when it was the old Zone 4 back years ago. And we got a couple things accomplished, but it faded out. So to have some groups and report back here, there's no problem with that. As far, and I agree with, I believe Dave said that when we have the group together, and when I say the group, it was the chiefs that came up with the apparatus replacement. It's a tough thing to do as it is 5 years from now, let alone 10 years from now. When what do we have manpower wise? What do we have? Do we have hydrants now? Don't we have hydrants? There's a lot of things to consider there. Whether that's a subcommittee and they bring back, but to sit here with all the people and talk and talk and talk, we didn't accomplish anything. And I'm definitely not criticizing anyone we have here from the citizens group. So please don't take that as a hit. But when it comes to talking apparatus, if they want to ask a question, absolutely. But I made this comment the other night at township meeting, PP steps, and people look at you like, what are you talking about? But let's accomplish and let's accomplish and let's accomplish and get something, done with this. But, we talk to volunteerism. That's what this group is all about. Okay. There's a lot of things that make it this volunteer group. And I believe we need the subcommittees to help do that. And if there's somebody that wants to volunteer, by all means, we're already using some people here. When I say using, but Susie volunteered to help with this group. Okay. She's not a part of this group, but if you have somebody that's interested, I sure don't think you should walk away from it. If you have somebody that's a good financial person, I'm willing to listen to that kind of stuff because I love money more just as much as anybody else. But the thing about it is I'm not saying that the group is going to make a decision, but it's somebody that can work with all of us to make us better. That I believe in working smarter, not harder. So, I guess I'll differ a little bit as far as setting up all the parameters and things like that. Sometimes a group can set up their own parameters and say, okay, here's our goals, such as the with what Greg is trying to accomplish with the school. We got to listen to everybody. So, Thank you.
I'm not suggesting that we don't listen to everybody. I appreciate what you're saying, Steve. My point is that because I don't think that we, and I think Dave said it over here, I don't think we have all the tactical skills beyond firefighters and chiefs and in the community. And there's nothing wrong with having community members on those to question. But I don't think it's a policy issue that we need to be discussing in a subcommittee that affects our operations. I think I don't know how to explain it. It's not that we want a subcommittee to establish policy. Is what I'm trying to direct. I think what we want the subcommittee to do is to give us direction more than anything else.
Yeah. I don't like talking policy. I don't like talking, this is how it has to be done. I like being able to talk, but have people pull the ideas together and not banter on and on and on. Let's accomplish something. And I made the comment to you at the one meeting when we had with I call it the newsletter committee. But I said I wanted on that because I wanted to see us go somewhere, and I think we've made great strides, and we've pulled people in from outside of the fire companies. They're put it this way, they understand the fire companies because I know who they are.
Sure.
But we were trying to get them to talk the talk, not the fire talk. In other words, we want people to understand what's going on with this. We can talk forever about fire stuff, and how this works and that works, but to the general person, they sit there and it's like Hutch said, it's like, what does this mean? So we've had to tweak things. But again, we've got people from the outside a little bit that can help, but no one, I don't know if anyone sat here and said, we're going to have policy that this is how we have to do something. It's throwing ideas out there and making this better. The only thing that we ever had that was truly written down, as long as I've been on this committee, has been the apparatus replacement. And that was a guideline more to help the township supervisors and township staff out to know what was coming up, is this going to happen? Isn't it going to happen? I mean, we've deviated from that an awful lot lately. So,
Well, I would have to ask, what is the end goal then of having a subcommittee? David?
I think the end goal of the subcommittee was, we spend a lot of time discussing in this meeting. And the idea of having a subcommittee was to try and cut that time down. That we've had some lengthy discussions in here. Some people were windy, and don't take that personally. But I think if everyone, maybe we need to set a time limit, 15 minutes, 10 minutes of speaking to get your point across. But I think that was the goal, was to try and have the subcommittees really vet things out before they come to this meeting, and we could move along a lot faster.
Well, I'm not ready to do a subcommittee yet. I think what we need to do is a couple of us need to sit
Fine.
down and talk beyond this. And I'll be glad to meet with a small group of folks to do that and come back with a proposal. If that would satisfy the request of the board of directors.
Jim, can I ask a question? What are the subcommittees being proposed?
They are finance, They are finance, operations, and community HR.
Okay. So I just wanted to reverse engineer it a little bit. So why do we have a subcommittee right now? So again, this is me joining this committee. We listen to the fire companies. What's the number one issue? It's about volunteers and maintaining and all the things that are connected to that, meaning make sure the people, the citizens understand what the fire companies are doing. What are some of the things that we can do to get more involvement, more members? So it really was like a task force as it started, and then we gave it the name of subcommittee and it started. So now they're off and running. So we kind of knew the compelling why of that because everybody was kind of saying the same thing. Actually, from the first meeting that I attended on, that was the number one issue. So that's being tackled. So it sounds like these other major areas are areas that could also benefit from that is what I'm hearing. It sounds to me like the chiefs themselves have been together and talking about different things. I'm not here long enough to know, has that been very effective that the chiefs get together? Because they have all their resources of their companies and would get together and talk about things. Because I would caution you on one thing, the more bureaucratic you become, you might find it very difficult to get things done. The more committees you create, which have officers and people that are in charge and other people, you got to be careful, as opposed to the relationship you have now as chiefs to be able to talk about anything you want, any one of those topics that you just talked about and come to this committee and say, hey, we met and we talked about it and here's something we want to share for everybody. But I hear what you're saying in trying to be more focused on the topics you're talking about. This committee, I'll read it for you. This committee has a short mission. That mission says, basically, with the community's assistance, work together to explore all possibilities for changes and improvements that will allow the tradition of high-quality volunteer emergency services to continue into the future. That's the first time it was emergency services. Before, in this paragraph, it talks about fire service. That was adopted in 2004. So it's certainly something to talk about if this particular subcommittee has brought other ideas for focusing on topics like you're suggesting. I'm just saying the way this one was formed was a lot of input saying, hey, this is a major issue we all have. Let's try and get this group of people together to do it. But how they would operate, and again, you have to have officers, you have to have meetings, you have more people coming together to do that. I think that requires a lot of planning to really see how that would work. My opinion.
So Mike, back in 2015, we spent 2013 to 2015 formulating the fire apparatus replacement plan was modified. The funding plan was modified. And we did not have at that time in the plan for HR or the human resources portion. 5 years into that plan, back mid 2020, I would say, which is 2 years ago, the 4 fire chiefs met, and this was before your tenure, your time, made a proposal to the Emergency Services Committee that we look at funding apparatus and the human resources. And at that time, the human resources was determined to be the number one issue. So the others, though we talk about them from time to time, were pretty much put on the back burner. And now that you have been involved in this committee, you know that we do talk about funding and apparatus replacement, but our focus is right now is on the human resources model part of it. So the only thing with the subcommittees was trying to address those other 2 items of operational and funding. We do not have to do the subcommittees. It was only a proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
By the way, just, and I think it's an interesting discussion, and I think I kind of understand where both of them are coming from, and I think both of them have, or I don't think there's necessarily 2 sides. I think there's 2 different ways of looking at it. One is, I would share a concern a little bit with Mike of having too much of a bureaucracy part of it, where again, these meetings take time, the resources, the official part of it. I guess I'm wondering, I mean, the ESC is kind of there as an intermediary or as a liaison or whatever between the fire companies and when they have business that needs to be addressed by the township supervisors. But there's nothing, I don't believe, really preventing us from, as 4 fire companies, we could theoretically create any kind of committee. In other words, it wouldn't be necessarily a part of the ESC, but let's say training, for example, we wanted to do something in training. I don't think there's anything limiting us at this point. And I guess what I'm suggesting is maybe that would be a hybrid or a way to test this and see where it goes, is the companies themselves could, just like the chiefs have met long before the ESC, and we've had different groups work together to do different things. And maybe we could establish, just as fire companies, again, have nothing to do with the ESC, a couple of people from each company and get together, have a few meetings and talk about training and see where that leads. And at some point, if the ESC needs to be involved or there's an official recommendation, it could still come back through the same channel as the chiefs or whatever, whoever the reps are. But I guess I'm just throwing the third option. The one option is to do more committees and maybe several more. Another option is to do none. Maybe this would be, I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying this is a good or a bad idea. I'm just throwing it out there as another idea. Is I know for us as a company, we've met with numerous other fire companies and other organizations and talked about, everything from finance to PR to, there's a lot of good ideas out there, and it is very nice, and it's pretty, you can make a lot of progress very quickly when you can, again, it's almost like a business where you can make the decisions, bang, bang, bang. You don't have to go back through, again, all the process, the meetings, through the whole bureaucracy part of it. So that's something to consider maybe.
Yeah.
I was worried that if you take it out of the chief's meeting, you lose in some flexibility when you're trying to, form that committee and have the people there, and you need the meeting time. But I do think maybe this is number 4, Paul, is that on this agenda, we can talk, certainly, Jim, we could talk about the standing items that are on the agenda. All these topics can be, we're going to talk about finance. Okay. Is it, is it old or new business for those topics, and just make them on the agenda so that they're really focused, and you won't go into different, rabbit holes on discussion.
I think the 4 chiefs would be okay with that. I don't mean to speak for them, but I know that the 3 points that we had brought up a year and a half to 2 years ago, we basically focused only on the HR portion, and we do need to focus on the others also. You mentioned earlier in this meeting that we need to revisit the apparatus program.
Yes.
But I'm not sure if you want to do that at this meeting or if.
No, I think
future-
that should be something that is done off. And I was going to ask the 4 chiefs if they would address that. And I'll be glad to participate in that. Maybe we can get a couple other folks to participate in that as well.
I think our plan that we formulated back in 2015, and it wasn't an easy plan. There was some tension when we
Right.
formulated that plan.
Right.
But we should review that every 5 years, if not visit it every year. Okay, just it's smart planning.
Well, I think that we're doing ourselves a disfavor as a community if we don't relook that schedule, and particularly in light of
Absolutely.
the changes that were because of the Whitmer's can change now, and and pushbacks and all that sort of thing. And we really need to be honest with ourselves about, are we doing this right? Are we suggesting the right thing? So, yes. Okay. All right. At this point, I'd like to table these 3 discussions. Good discussions, good ideas. I'll be glad to coordinate any of the agenda items that you want to talk about. We'll make sure that we can get them on here.
I think the same document that was sent a year and a half ago is what we'd like to see on the list, which is apparatus replacement, funding, and HR.
Okay. All right, so we can redo our agenda and we'll start working through those discussions on those items. Okay.
Jim, I really support that idea. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. All right. Very good. I stopped and flip-flopped on some things. So Jeff, if you could please, we'll ask you. I apologize.
My reports for July and August has been submitted. Everybody in the committee received that. So my incident report in regards to the July incident at Motel 6 is in the hands of the township manager. We will have a meeting on that and we'll get back with the committee.
Okay,
Notes and so forth.
okay,
We're still gathering some other information.
okay, Jeff.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Hutch, we've already, Mike, do you have anything else to add as I poll the rest of the committee? Okay.
No, good.
Okay. Citizens, do you have any comments? Okay, anyone else here have any comments? in The committee, okay. So let me open it to public comments, please. Go ahead, Tim.
Tim Horner with Handyman Fire Department. I think it's interesting from my position, listening to all the discussion from the start of the meeting till now. And I believe that there was a level of almost excitement in the first half or 2/3 of the meeting. And then that was starting to disintegrate into something that I felt like there was some tension here. And I think, and then listening to Steve, what I took, and I wasn't familiar with any of what Dave was going to ask for from his fire company, but listening to what Steve said, that was the excitement that was toward the beginning when we were talking about the newsletter and all that kind of stuff. And he just added to that saying outside ideas. Now, the chiefs have gotten together over the years. And quite frankly, I think one of the problems we have is when we rely on 4 fire chiefs in the township to solve a lot of these problems, the 3 big ones, because it's not just the chief's ballpark to take care of these, although it comes back in their lap a lot of times, and they're adversely affected when they're not taken care of. So my thing is, from just listening tonight, whether you get it started as an official subcommittee or you get a group of people of like minds to solicit ideas and information with the intention of whatever any one or all of the 4 fire companies can pull from that could work for either 1, 2, 3, or all of them, that could conceivably be very beneficial. Sherm and his company at Whitmer is willing to take on this task, not having ever managed it before. I don't think they participated heavily when it was the club, the firefighter club, but he's willing to take it on. And tonight he said that they may not get anybody, and West Earl might get a handful. Lafayette might, who knows how that'll come out, who gets new members ultimately. But the idea here is, to me, and what I'm hearing from Steve, and I think I'm hearing this from, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, the intention is to get some outside or other ideas and try to integrate them into the conversation at this level, but not having to try to do all this conversation here. Because I'm telling you, there was a difference in the atmosphere. And that's just what happens. I think that maybe Lafayette, I didn't see the letter at all, but maybe Lafayette should have put more information in and, you know, you know, and then Mike would say, no, we don't need all that. We just need too much black on the white paper. We just need to have a starting point. And I think that's what I was hearing, Jim. And I think that that's what, as a group, we need to kind of look at this newsletter committee, or what are you calling it? I'm not even sure. Subcommittee, what do you? Volunteer voices. Volunteer voices, okay. So using that kind of as one of the trial balloons on how to make things work, if we can take some of those successes and carry them into other areas of human resources and finances, I think we're on to something. I don't know that we need to set up a formal committee right away, but I certainly would like, if I was, from my perspective out here, what I didn't hear, and probably because it's so early, is what problem are we trying to solve with the subcommittee? And Jim, I think, was trying to ask that, basically, what problem are we trying to solve and how are we going to go about solving it? I think this group identified needs to the point in the last few meetings, to the point that you've got this Volunteer Voices newsletter committee going to say, okay, let's see if we can get some people together to work on that. And I think it's the same thing here. So if this group can articulate a little bit more detail on these things, like on a desired possible subcommittee, maybe there's a better way to do it than a subcommittee, or you get some like-minded people. And like Steve said, you know, well, just the fact that his granddaughter, right, that your granddaughter is on the committee, I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah, she's in a firefighting family, but she wouldn't have to be doing that. My daughter's on the committee, Amy Wissing. She wouldn't have to be doing that, but she, you know, if anybody knows her, she brings a lot of knowledge and, to some degree, passion of wanting to get information out to the public in the best way possible. And so I think if we can, over the next few meetings, if we can begin to work on that to bring more people into this, and definitely not just rely on the handful of people that are here, we're probably going to make a lot more progress. I can't believe that they made that in 2 meetings. I'm sorry, that's almost too hard. But that says a world of credit to them for what they
You had to sit there and listen to the discussion to enjoy it. It was phenomenal.
did. Anyway,
It really was.
that's my perspective. So
Jason.
Jason Byler, President Lafayette Fire, Alderman member. Just kind of sort of related to kind of what Steve's getting at, and Tim, even just with what this is trying to accomplish. I went back, listened to the supervisors meeting from this past Monday. Mike, I got I know you kind of alluded to something David said earlier regarding the Motel 6 incidents and the homelessness issue, and the vibe I got from Chairman Blowers that committee is that was going to get kicked to the ESC to kind of be the champion to resolve that. Is that a correct understanding of that situation or not so much?
That has been corrected, I would say, and adjusted, and that's not going to be the responsibility of this committee.
Okay, appreciate that clarification. I was just, and we have the issue of HR not having enough volunteers, and that's a big issue to try and solve.
Thanks, Jason. We're on Zoom, Susan. Chad, do you have anything to say? No? Okay. Anyone else have any comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Have a motion, second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.